Thanks for the hearts. Okay, let's get started. Hi, this is William Friedman from the Cross Country Local. An expedition to go from the Atlantic to the Pacific, clear across the United States, using only local or regional transit, as is the case right now. We just pulled out of Oklahoma City and heading down to Wichita Falls, Texas, which is very, very different from Wichita, Kansas. And from Wichita Falls, I'm hopping on another bus that'll take me down to Fort Worth. And then there's some news to report. So anyway, I'm on something called Jefferson Lines. Now, this is, oh, thank you for sharing. This is totally consistent with my with my rule to not take national transit, because Jefferson Lines is not anything the size of Greyhound. It uses Greyhound terminals because it kind of has to, but it is independently owned and operated. I believe it's out of Duluth, Minnesota, and it's only in 13 states. And considering that the Cross Country Local is going through 15 states, I feel totally justified riding Jefferson Lines. And it's a comfortable bus, typical, motor coach, and a really good driver. Needs to be said is that this guy's a real pro. He's at a job that requires a certain and often undervalued amount of skill, and he's also very good at dealing with the public. And by that I mean that a good portion of his job is enforcing the rules, and he's good at that. He's very good at explaining what you can and cannot do. He's very good at saying no to people when he has to, without being rude about it. And so that's something that I just got to respect. I think we're making a little stop here at the university campus, where we're going to pick up some more passengers. You are Nikita. Привет, Nikita. So anyway, it looks like it'll be a largely uneventful ride down to Wichita Falls, so it's in some comfort. And yeah, that's just not a lot to report. I would like to mop up a couple of stray thoughts I had at the National Memorial yesterday. If you didn't see the broadcast from yesterday evening, while I was in Oklahoma City and while the news out of Paris was so fresh, I felt the need to drop by the site of the Murrah building, which was blown up by American terrorist Timothy McVeigh about 15 years ago, or I'm sorry, 20 years ago. So anyway, first of all, I made the point that we're obsessing over the bombing in Paris when there are practically simultaneous bombings in Lebanon and Iraq and Kenya. And I made the point that that this just isn't right, that just because we feel culturally or ethnically closer to France, that somehow those lives matter more than other lives, and that, of course, is absolutely unconscionable to have that opinion. So I don't hold with it. I did state for the record that I understand the opinion because, personally, I've been to Paris. I spent a lot of time in Paris, and although I've spent time in the Middle East, it has been pretty much entirely in Israel and the Palestinian territories, and I've never been to Beirut, and I've never been to Baghdad, so those are just spots on the map to me. And even though I've been to Africa and spent as much time in Africa as I have in France, it was not in Kenya, it was in South Africa, so I really don't know anything about Kenya. So Paris is the one that I can personally identify with the most, and I understand why so many people do. But to cover the Paris bombings to the exclusion of all else, I think is just wrong-headed of policy setters, of the media, and of people in general. The other loose end I wanted to tie up was in branding McVeigh and his cohort, Terry Nichols, as terrorists. I mean, of course they're terrorists, and if you're fed up with the government and you do something like that, you're a terrorist. Because what you should be doing is voting or doing something else to influence change in Washington, rather than blowing up preschoolers. Now the counter to that, I realized after I signed off, is that maybe Washington is so broken that there's just no fixing it, and that direct action is the only fight against the tyrants who are clamping down on our freedoms and are oppressing us. Can I just tell you right now, as someone who's traveled a lot and someone who comes from like a 3,000, 4,000 year history of being on the wrong side of ethnic divides and being tolerated or not tolerated, and certainly very little more than tolerated for most of its history, you don't know what a tyrant is. If you think Obama's a tyrant, try dealing with the czars or the Assyrians or the Babylonians or the Persians or the Seleucids or the Romans. You don't know what a tyrant is. You just don't know. You try dealing with the Nazis, or I could go on. The Iron Cross of Hungary. These are tyrants. The Cossacks. These are tyrants. The EPA is not tyrants. So just get that clear. And oppression, you don't know oppression. If you're an American, you haven't been kicked out of America. Guess what? My family's been kicked out of... okay, I'm sorry, I have to cut this short. Like I said, bus drivers, much for the rules. Anyway, William Friedman, Cross Country Local. Follow me here on Periscope. Follow me on Instagram or Twitter at XCLocal. That's hashtag XRayCharlieLocal. And I'll report back later. Talk to you soon. See you on the route.